Some people regret choosing the wrong career. Others regret not buying Bitcoin in 2012. Some even regret a dumb tattoo they got at 19. But then, there are things society forbids you from saying out loud. There are those who regret having children. And that's not just a mistake. That's not a bad investment. It's not a bad haircut. It's not something you can undo. It's a living, breathing commitment. A decision that demands your soul. Even when you have nothing left to give. It's a one-way path. And once you step on it, there is no return. That's why more and more people today are choosing not to board that train at all. Not because they're selfish, but because they finally see the cost. And here's why. And what about you? What's your take on having children? How old are you? Where are you from? And do you have kids yourself? Because I'm from a country with the lowest birth rate on the planet. I would like to have children, but I simply can't afford it. To bring a child into existence without a guarantee of happiness, is that not the ultimate form of egoism? We create life not for the sake of the child, but for ourselves, for our loneliness, our pride, our need to feel immortal. Yet the child inherits none of our reasons, only our risks. Pain, fear, sorrow, a roulette they never asked to play. And once born, they can never go back. Inspired by Schopenhauer. If childbirth, as Schopenhauer said, is a roulette, then the question is, what are the odds of a winning ticket? Look around. Everything we know, every metric, every survey, every pattern, points to one brutal truth. Society is not a circle, it's a pyramid. Most people will live and die at the bottom. Their entire existence will be debt, anxiety, survival. They will be used, drained, discarded, and told to smile through it. The top 10%? They thrive in chaos. Pandemic, profit. War, leverage. Economic collapse, a buying opportunity. For them, the system is a ladder. For everyone else, it's a meat grinder. So, when you bring a child into this world, you're not just giving life. You're gambling with someone else's future, without their permission. Are you sure you're ready to play that game? They say life is about choices, that success is just a matter of discipline, mindset, strategy. But here's the truth no one tells you. In this world, the quality of your decisions depends on your position in the pyramid. For those at the top, the kings of life, 9 out of 10 choices work in their favor. Even their failures are soft. They fall on cushions made of money, family ties, and private safety nets. And for the ones at the bottom, 9 out of 10 choices will bury them deeper. A wrong marriage, a student loan, a baby at 22, a failed side hustle. Each choice isn't just a misstep, it's a noose. And the one good choice they could make? Often it's locked behind doors they'll never be invited to open. The brutal secret is this. It's not that the poor make bad choices. It's that the system makes good choices inaccessible, while punishing bad ones with maximum pain. The top lives in a world of trial and error. The bottom lives in a world of trial and execution. You don't just need to choose right. You need to be born in the right place to have real choices at all. Example 1. The rich, beautiful girl, top of the pyramid. She's beautiful. She grew up in a gated community. Her dad's a lawyer, her mom does Pilates and charity. In high school, she's prom queen. In college, she joins a sorority, posts sunsets from Bali, and somehow always lands the internship. Every door is already unlocked, not because she's evil, but because the game was rigged in her favor from day one. If she messes up, rehab in Malibu. If she breaks down, therapy with a coach who costs more than your rent. By 30, she either marries a hedge fund guy or launches a wellness brand. And even if she burns out in a designer robe. Example 2. The poor kid from the wrong side of town, bottom of the pyramid. He's smart, but it doesn't matter. He grows up with food stamps, a single mom, and 3 locks on the front door. At 13, he skips school to walk his sister home safe. At 15, he starts working under the table to help pay rent. Nobody tells him about college apps or compound interest, but everyone blames him for not making it out. One fight at school, he's expelled. One wrong friend, he's a felon. One child too early, his future is gone. He didn't fail because he's stupid. He failed because the system is a trap disguised as a staircase. 2 lives, 2 pyramids. One of them was born with wings. The other was born in a cage and told to fly. And now, imagine this. At 30 they meet, maybe at a conference, a coffee shop, a dating app. 2 adults, the same age, but from different universes. What would they even talk about? One grew up worrying about internships. The other grew up worrying about eviction. One was taught to dream. The other was taught to survive. Their values, fears, instincts, all shaped by altitudes they never chose. And here's the truth most people can't admit. They have nothing in common. Not really. Because worldview isn't some abstract opinion. It's geography. Where you were born in the pyramid, that's your map of reality. And most people don't climb between levels. They just stare at each other across the glass, like reflections that were never meant to touch. There's a rule no one teaches you in school, but it runs the world. Winners are never judged. No one cares if they cheated, if they stepped on others, if they inherited the whole game. If you win, they celebrate you. If you lose, they bury you. You could work 10 times harder than the rich kid from the suburbs, wake up earlier, bleed more, break yourself, and still, he ends up on top. You end up invisible. Why? Because in this world, effort is currency with no value unless it cashes out. People only see the outcome, not the struggle, not the system, not the 1,000 ways the deck was stacked against you. And here's the worst part. If you fail, don't even talk about it. Don't explain. Don't complain. Don't justify. Because once you're labeled a failure, everything you say just confirms it. That's the cruelty of the pyramid. It doesn't ask how hard you tried. It only asks, did you win? In the context of having children, there's one question most people never ask. Can you give your child a life where they play by the rules, not against them? Will they be born into a game they can actually win? Or will they spend their life fighting a system designed to crush them? Can they live as moral human beings? Or will survival force them to compromise everything? Will they have the freedom to make good choices? Or will their decisions, 9 times out of 10, lead to pain? Because they started from the wrong square on the board. And even from a selfish angle. Let's say it's not about them. Let's say it's about you. Will having a child actually make you happier? Because here's a brutal truth. If you're already whole, already fulfilled, a child can expand that joy. But if you're broken, if you're lost, resentful, barely holding on, a child doesn't fix that. It magnifies it. A miserable parent becomes more miserable. A stable, grounded parent becomes more alive. So the real question is, where is that threshold, that invisible line, where giving life adds more than it takes? So, why are the most advanced nations in the world seeing the sharpest declines in birth rates? Why are people choosing to break the cycle? It's not because they hate children. It's not because they're lazy. And it's definitely not because they've given up on love. It's because they've done the math. In a world where the cost of living breaks your spine, where 2 incomes barely cover rent, where time, energy, and emotional bandwidth are constantly depleted, having a child is no longer a rite of passage. It's a luxury product. And more people are asking, how can I give life when I can barely manage my own? In Japan, South Korea, Germany, the US, the trend is the same. People are delaying, reducing, or rejecting parenthood altogether. Not because they're selfish, but because they understand the weight of what it means to be responsible for another soul. They don't want to create a child just to watch them struggle. They don't want to roll the dice and hope for a miracle. They want to be sure. And in this world, no one is ever really sure anymore. So they choose not to bring life into a collapsing system. And maybe that's not cowardice. Maybe it's the first real act of courage we've seen in decades. But here's the paradox. In the wealthiest countries, birth rates are collapsing. But in the poorest countries on Earth, birth is everywhere. More children, bigger families, year after year. Why? Is it because they're kinder, closer to nature, more fulfilled by simpler lives? Or is it because they don't have a choice? Because there's no education, no contraception, no social support for women, no real path to economic freedom, just cultural inertia, biological instinct, and survival math? I'm not here to answer that. I'm just here to ask. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I promise you, the reasons are darker than most people are willing to admit. And now, an uncomfortable statistic. According to official US data, 45% of all children are born from unplanned pregnancies. Not wanted, not prepared for, just the result of a moment, or a habit, or a broken condom. But of course, your parents never told you that. They didn't say, "We didn't want you, we just wanted to footbond." No, they probably said you were a miracle, a blessing, a gift from God. And you know what? Maybe you were. Maybe you're one of the 55% of children who were actually planned, wanted, and born out of love. I'm sure of it. In fact, if 100 people watch this video, I'm confident all 100 of you are from that 55%. Right? There's a philosophy most people don't even dare to whisper, a worldview so uncomfortable it's often dismissed before it's understood. It's called anti-natalism, the belief that bringing a child into this world is not a gift, but a moral risk. Not because life is meaningless, not because children are bad, but because to create life is to invite pain without consent. You didn't ask to be born. No one does. And yet here you are, in a world of suffering, noise, decay, and endless uncertainty. To be born is to be sentenced. To sickness, to loss, to fear, to death. Philosopher David Benatar said it best: the absence of pain is good, even if there's no one to enjoy it. But the absence of pleasure is not bad, unless someone exists to be deprived. In other words, not being born spares you pain, but being born guarantees it, with no guarantees of joy. So what's more ethical, to create a life full of risk, or to spare someone from a game they never asked to play? Maybe love isn't giving someone life. Maybe real love is the courage not to. Everyone knows how to make a child, but almost no one asks the harder question. What does it take to raise one? Not just feed them, not just clothe them, not just keep them alive. I'm talking about raising a child into a full, healthy, whole human being, one who can live without being broken by the world. And for that, there's a price, a standard, emotional stability, a safe environment, real time, real attention, enough money to protect them from constant fear. But more than that, you need to be whole yourself. If you're empty, they'll feel it. If you're bitter, they'll absorb it. If you're lost, they'll inherit your confusion like a genetic curse. Children don't fix your life. They amplify what's already there. If you're broken, you don't get healed by becoming a parent. You just create a second version of your damage. So before you ask, do I want a child? Ask this instead. Can I give them a life where love is real, stability exists, and more than 50% of their choices have a chance to succeed? If you can't, then maybe you're not ready to give life. Not yet. Because a child is not a fantasy. It's a moral contract. So now it's interesting to ask you, what do you think the minimum standard should be? What do you believe a person must have, emotionally, financially, psychologically, before they have the right to bring another life into this world? Not just to create a child, but to give them a real shot at happiness. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What are the criteria? Because if we don't even agree on the conditions for life, maybe we're not ready to keep creating it.